Three, two, one. Welcome to the Lightforge Podcast. This is Oddwictum.
This is Merps. Hello. Let's talk about new stuff. We got some patch. We got the announcement of the new expansion. Dig in.
So much new stuff. Let's just start Arena, and then we'll cover Battlegrounds afterwards. Mostly because, according to Merps, I know nothing about this, but this makes sense. No one's playing Battlegrounds right now because they overtuned Diablo in the patch.
Well, lots of people are frustrated by that. I'm not saying like no one is playing, but I will say people are frustrated, talking about like quitting BGs. I'm certainly not coming back to BGs during this time.
Yeah. It sounds like even worse than Arena right now in terms of how warped the game is by the event. So if you don't know, Arena still exists. And what they did is dual class is still around and going to be around until the expansion comes out, which is like in 2 weeks. It's around the corner. It's coming out. So the new expansion was announced, and it is Horde v Alliance, and it's coming out on December 7th, much like we expected it to come out. And we will have all of the card previews and ratings and all that for you on Sunday the 5th in that mega stream. All normal things. But with this patch, before we even get there, they took out Engineer. This is the lowest hanging fruit to fix the problem, and they did it.
Yeah, this was look, we know that there was no way they could keep the state of Arena as is. There are lots of things that if you were to construct a wish list, I think a lot of people who play in the Arena would have given you a lot more suggestions, more nuanced suggestions rather than just this one thing, taking out Deep Run Engineer. But you know what? They did something for now.
And it
Blizzard
works.
is aware of the issues. Cora tweeted out they are aware, and we do have to understand, these things that we want. I think they recognize internally. It's like, this isn't the be all end all like greatest solution, and therefore we are presenting it to you that way. This is hoping that you'll keep on playing while we just like put a band-aid on this.
Yeah.
Which sure, that is what it is. Now, does it make me want to play? Not really still, but it is better than nothing.
Yeah, I played some Arena after the patch, and it feels like Arena again. It is no longer like totally unplayable. It is now like normal dual class Arena. There's still the problem where there's not enough class cards for most classes, and it doesn't feel particularly great for dual class. And the strategy is all weird. Like the balance is super off because it's dual class. It's an event, but getting rid of Deep Run Engineer makes it at least feel like the Arena again. Like, not a well-balanced version of the Arena. Still, but it's in event mode right now. Lowest hanging fruit. I hope they do this. Like, at least they've established that they're going to do this if things go crazy, right? Even in a rotation, even in an event, which is good. And I think last podcast I even said, like, this is the least they're going to do. Like, something's going to happen, like, as soon as they possibly can, even if it's just removing Deep Run Engineer. And they did. So hopefully they're taking a deeper look at what goes on in the arena. And that brings us to this new expansion. Before we talk more about, like, the actual expansion and the mechanics, I guess we have to talk about the mechanic to talk about this. I'm just going to start off with the elephant in the room, which is, like, we don't like talking about cards before the big card reveal, where we value all 135 cards, and, we tell you what to worry about, what to look out for. We focus a lot on neutrals because it's the arena. But a lot of the oxygen in the arena discussion has been taken up by 2 cards that they revealed. So we should talk about it. I'm going to just read off the cards. And fair warning, this is not going to be a hot take from us. These are the most powerful class cards ever printed that are not legendary. And we don't know how many more of these are coming. But it's not every card in the set. They also revealed a whole bunch of other cards that seem like normal-ish. So anyway, without further ado, card number 1 is a Paladin card. No surprise there, problematic Paladin cards in Arena. 8 mana, 8/8 rush. Templar Captain. After this attacks a minion, summon a 5/5 defender with taunt. So it's an 8/8 rush for 8, and then once you hit something, which you will when you're playing it, it creates a 5/5 immediately. And if it lives for a turn, which it may because it starts off with 8 health, and it hits something else, you get another 5/5, and so on and so forth. You can give it divine shields, you can heal it, blah 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 blah.
Yep. I mean, this is insane. Like, typically we would see this as being like a 7/7 with like a condition on it, right? Like, it's like, oh,
Overkill,
overkill,
dire
right?
horn.
Or like, I don't know, make them work at it a little bit more. Maybe have the 5/5 not have taunt as well. That
Yes.
might also be helpful. But man, there really is no downside to this. The way you play around it is to have, for you on the other side, to have nothing on the board so that they can't rush into it. Haha, you got him. So ridiculously powerful. Like, we can talk about power creep and everything. And you see something like, for example, Marsh Hydra, and you're just like, where the hell did this come from? And Marsh Hydra is still ridiculously powerful. And then you see
Nowhere
something
close
like
to
this as
Templar
well.
Captain.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It's just such insane. It's like it just immediately puts a 5/5 taunt onto the board with the potential, just like a Marsh Hydra, of doing it again, right?
Yep.
And you don't have to gamble on the random 8 drop that Marsh Hydra gives you. You don't have to pay the cost. It's just out there. It's so ridiculous. It's actually just stupid how good this card is. When we're looking at what is rightfully so one of the best cards in Arena, not necessarily because it's rotation dependent, but like Marsh Hydra, you look at that and you're like, wow, this is no contest. Which one is better here?
Yeah. We've been rating cards under this new system, like this simplified version of the Lightforge tier list system since this year began. And there has been no card rated as high as this card. Not even legendaries. So we are in a new level of power creep here in this game. I think every single time cards get revealed, people go crazy over them, and we're always the ones coming in, like outside of like very specific cards that we're also like high on, and usually they're neutrals, which would not be problematic if they were class cards, or at least far less problematic if they were class cards, except for Watch Post. We usually tell people like, calm down. These are just top tier class cards. They are as good as other top tier class cards. They're super good. Like Arbor Up, we don't think it belongs in the game, but like draft it, right? Like that is the top line of best possible class card. Here we are in better than Arbor Up by a significant margin, never before seen levels of just like power this is rare, by the way. It's a rare card. It's not even epic.
You also want to remember, because if some of you are thinking back on the Arbor Up days, our rankings for cards, it doesn't factor in micro slash
Oh yeah.
macro adjust and the rotation within it. So if you remember Arbor Up as being more powerful than how you think that we are rating it, I agree with you. There was a rotation, not even a rotation. There was an adjustment period where I would say Arbor Up is about as powerful as any card you could have in any rotation because of stupid things like the Acorn Bear, like the double 1/2 taunt generation, just all the small things. You couldn't get druids off the board, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Arbor Up being that power level and then being helped out with all those adjustments, yes, it was
Squirrels.
so unstoppable. Like, it was even better than the S tier score it would give you, but our scores don't take into account, like, hey, look, like, it's adjusting all of these things up, and because you're getting all these like acorn bears, you're getting all of these opportunities to just vomit stuff out. And then keep it there with like Mark of the Lotus, let's say on turn 3 with all of these tokens, and then you Arbor Up on turn 5 to completely capitalize and shut out the game. no, that's not taken into consideration. And even still, then it's a S. So yes, if you take into those things into consideration for that meta, I would say if we did this, which we don't, but if we did, yeah, Arbor Up would be like a S plus 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 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you can always create metas that are good for things, right? Like,
Yeah,
imagine this meta has no removal except, things that are on the board, and it's easy to heal and get Divine Shield, and there's no rush down. All right, like then Templar Captain is, like it's better than Arbor Up. Arbor Up at the end of the day is a 5 mana 4/3/4/3 some of the time. It was just that in that meta, that happened rarely, rather than happening most of the time, because you're trying to keep Druid off of the board. Templar Captain doesn't need a board, doesn't need anything. It's good always. It's amazing always. It's not just like overstated always. It's grossly overstated always. And if the opponent doesn't take care of it immediately through things that can get through taunts, they're just dead. They are just super, 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 super dead. So they need a board clear or a single target removal handy. And that's stuff that classes just like have fewer and fewer when you talk about doing some wild rotations and stuff. So I don't know how this card can exist next to like War Golem or whatever normal cards are. It's one of the problems in Arena when you go with a wild rotation. The power levels of the cards just are not the same. And so whether you draw your good cards, whether you're able to draft your good cards, and then you draw your good cards, just determines whether you win the game or not. And there's like the skill impact becomes much, much more minimalized. So raising the power level, like I said, we have not, like, there has basically been one definitive power creep when the core rotation, like when the core set came in, and it was great. It was a great standardization of power creep. I don't know what's happening here because they just put the core set out. Like the core set is like not even cold yet; it's still warm. They are not. They haven't even printed the update to the core set, right? Core set 2. They haven't even printed core set 2 yet. And oh my god, is this what's happening? Is this a little preview of what's going to happen in core set 2? Are we going to get, like, I don't know, 5-6 Yetis? Because that's what the new power level seems to be. Yeah, and if we do, that's not an impossible way to create a game. It'll be more swingy and I'll like it less, but you can't have that work with the old cards, which is what Arena does. So you have this problem here if this is a direction.
the problem is really, really pronounced now. It was bad-ish before, where like you go and look at some of these cards. For example, we just had Witchwood recently, right? And you
Uh-huh.
look at some of these Witchwood cards,
3
and you're
mana,
like, oh,
3/3.
yeah, you're like, oh, okay, well, they're not that great, but Blizzard has, through the latest expansions, and mini sets, revealed that look, this is the direction we're gonna go with these power levels, and it's kind of unfortunate because if you look at what Constructed is dominated by, it's quests. So I, they're I don't know if they're trying to make up for it and be like, hey, look, these regular cards which don't really fit into quests, we're gonna make them better, but like nobody will put these as of right now, as of the current meta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is still going to put these cards that don't fit quests into their deck,
Okay,
no
Templar
matter how
Captain looks
good
like
they
a
are.
terrible constructed card.
Yeah. Um, like so that's really the issue. Like they can make it this good, but like, okay, if like Templar Captain were a 9/9, would Constructed still
No,
play it? They wouldn't,
no,
right?
no. It's just not the type of card that works in constructed right now.
If they made it a 9/9 that summoned a 6/6 taunt,
No.
because it doesn't work with quests, you could put +1/+1 on both of the bodies and it still wouldn't be played in constructed.
Yeah,
I'm
it's an 8 mana
pretty sure.
card. Like,
It's an 8 mana card that doesn't fit in quests.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just like it's very like it's disappointing and it's puzzling because it's sort of like you would have to make it to such an extreme degree to really like have people play it. Um, because right now the entire meta revolves around quests and sort of like each side, I don't want to reduce it to this, but like if you talk to some people, it's kind of solitaire, and if you say Merps, like, you don't play constructed, okay, I will just take Kibler's word for it. Kibler, I think, is the strongest uh, critic of
Tweet
quests.
every day.
He tweets at Ixar like literally every day. It's become like a joke by this point. And I understand there are some constructed players who don't mind quests as much, but I think that players will agree that because quests are so powerful, not only do you kind of know how the game will play out, it really does limit in terms of deck inclusion what you want to do, because it's less so about disrupting your opponents and more so about how can I most efficiently get to my end goal, to
Mhm.
complete this quest, to do what I want to do. And Hearthstone, constructed Hearthstone has been trending that way for a while. Um, and I'm not saying this to like poo poo on the devs or anything, because this is a choice that they made. Some people like it, some people don't. But I will say, when you look at the effect on Arena, because those quests are not in Arena at all, and they have made the ancillary or tangential decision to say, okay, well, we can't have all of these other cards be absolute shit. So for the people who aren't following Aegis Replay, don't have all the cards, let's make some really good cards that they might want to include in their like homebrew, not even like homebrew, just like decks on the lowest tiers that they can play, and it's cool and it might be worth it. And maybe those are getting play. Maybe people appreciate those, but man, does it mess up Arena when you put out stuff like a Templar, when you put out stuff like uh what was it? The hunter weapon that is coming out.
We'll
It
talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. It's just pretty disappointing because they're probably making an effort to have people think that buying packs is worth it, because these other cards are still pretty good. They could put them in some decks even though they are
They're
way
ruining the
not meta
game.
decks. Yeah, but the impact on the Arena meta is huge. It's
I,
so huge.
we're
So
gonna
that's definitely disappointing
like
there.
we need to talk about this after we talk about the hunter weapon, which is what are they going to do? Like I'll say flat out right now, this cannot exist in the arena in a wild rotation. It can barely exist in the arena in its standard rotation. What this needs is for the new core set to come out and to have a power creep on that core set again. The very first, like, core set number 2 already power creeps for core set number 1, like, significantly. That's what needs to happen for these cards to validly exist in the arena. Otherwise, it just ruins the entire game. So we'll talk about it when we get there. Let's talk about this hunter weapon first that Merce brought up. So this is one of the first cards revealed in the new expansion. It is called Blood Seeker. This one's common. This one's not even rare. It's a 2-mana 2/2 weapon for hunter, which so you already know it's good. And then it has the new keyword Honorable Kill. Gain +1/+1. Honorable Kill triggers whenever you deal exact lethal to a minion. So if they have 2 health, you deal 2 damage. If they have 1 health, you deal 1 damage, etc., etc. So if you find something with 2 health and you use the Bloodseeker on it, you start with a 2/2 weapon, and instead of having a 2/1 nub remaining, you have a 3/2 War Axe. And
Yeah.
if your opponent has a minion with like 3 or 4 health, and you find a way to deal 1 or 2 damage to that minion before you use your Bloodseeker to slam into it, you get the same result.
Yeah, this card, if you just think about it, and if you just remember how good Glaive Zuka was for Hunter, different meta, I understand, different power level, but if you just gave a Hunter a Glaive Zuka without the like additional, attack to minion and everything, um, it would be very playable. It'd be pretty good. Hunters could use that flexibility, they could use that damage, they could use that reach. So like a 2 mana for a 2/2 weapon for a hunter, okay. It's decent. Like, very pickable, very draftable. Hunters, especially the type of hunter that I play would appreciate that. But it's so easy to
Mm-hmm.
proc honorable kill for that thing. So look,
Mm-hmm.
in the early game, and also hunters are not awkward anymore. they have so many ways to ping, to do damage. Blizzard has just throughout the years said, we don't want you going face. We want to give you options to like ping things, to stay on the board, to do this, to do that. So you're going to get the honorable kill off. So at the very least, I'm not talking like 70, 80% of the time. I'm talking like 95% of the time plus. Like you're going to get the honorable kill one way or the other. If not through the first charge, then through the second charge, or like just wait a little bit and you'll get it. You know, don't be dumb with the weapon. So it's kind of like 95% of the time, it's just a super fiery war axe that is much cheaper, like 1 mana cheaper than Fiery War Axe, and then at the start it is not like as powerful, but you get like one more charge with 2 attack, and then there's still the potential for it to have one more swing. On top of
And
that, it's
one
so
more swing.
yeah, and more swings. It's so disgusting. And the most disgusting thing is you could keep using this to trade, and then you can just start going face with it afterwards.
Yep.
And it rewards you. It's so stupid. It rewards you for trading on the board at first, and then you're swinging to their face with like a 6 damage weapon. It's so dumb. It's actually so dumb. Oh my god. This is so toxic, by the way. So okay, look. If you remember, when I was talking about ramming mount, which I said was an S tier card,
it should have been an S tier card.
It
That was
should
my
have been
bad.
I and you guys don't know how hard I tried because
That was my
I focused on
bad.
that. There you go. But what I focused on a lot about that card was not only its power level, but how toxic it was. Just how stupidly annoying it was. If there's any redeeming quality to the Templar, it's that it comes out on turn 8,
Yep.
and at least you could do some things, and at least if you are so far ahead, and let's just say, you know, you have a removal in your hand, and you're like, okay, maybe we save it for the Templar, and the Templar takes away from my board, like, I don't know, 12 mana's worth of tempo, right? But that's okay because I have such a huge lead. As long as I prepare for it, the Templar only takes away 12 mana's worth of tempo, and I'm still up because I'm up so much, and that's fine, ish, you know, fine. God, this weapon, it's so toxic. Like the scores for both of these cards, you know, like I haven't calculated it because it's always out to calculating. They're going to end up being similarly brokenly good, but
Yep. They're
the
actually
top,
like nearly identically brokenly good.
yeah,
I'll put it this way. The math works out so that they are in the S plus tier, which nothing has been in the S plus tier since the S plus tier was invented like a year ago. That means nothing released in the last year was S plus tier. Literally nothing.
yeah. So
including ramming mount, which would have gotten to S tier, but would still never have gotten to S plus tier. Ramming mount's problem is that it destroyed the game, like even more so than like how good it is, right? Because you can like keep ramming mount not useful, like that's totally doable. Just keep their board clear. The problem, of course, is that the instant you don't do that, or you know, the 75% of the times that you can't do that, you lose the game. Well, you can still beat them 25% of the time. Bloodseeker doesn't have that problem. You're pretty much just going to win if you can get this out on turn 2 and then you curve out otherwise.
Yep.
Like, so yeah. So it's S plus tier. But I will note that both this and the Guardian they're S plus tier. But if there is a tier higher than S, which we don't actually have, but mathematically it can go up. You know, it can scale indefinitely on this exponential scaling system for tiers that we set up. But if there is another tier above S, it does not reach that tier. It is actually an S plus, not because S plus is the highest tier that we named, but because in the hypothetical tier above S plus, it does not reach there. But this is all ridiculous. Like S tier cards should not exist. S plus is just bonkers broken.
It makes it to the point where, look, you've seen what happens when you have stuff that is too accessible and too powerful, and that is something like Goliath, right? Like we had Goliath, and it could always be
Hmm.
kind of
Keep in
discovered,
mind,
and it's
Goliath
sort of
is S tier. Bloodseeker is better than Goliath. That
yeah. Well, the thing is, it was a 7-mana Goliath.
right, okay, fair. Like actual Goliath drafted into your deck
Sure.
is
Only S.
yeah,
Only S.
yeah. It's
Um
actually not as good as the Paladin card. It's
so
yeah.
yeah. The problem you end up getting is like it makes a lot of the rest of the game not matter. One way or the other. Like and that was a lot of the problems with the cars that were eventually banned. For example, the ramming mount, all it asked was, do you have removal in your hand at that moment? If not, it doesn't matter. It's like you drafted well, you played well up until that point, as in there weren't many decisions and you made like decent decisions to then. That's great. That doesn't matter anymore. And for Sneeds, it's sort of like, well, you were damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing, and you can't really play around it. Like not really, because
Hmm.
the Goliath does pretty exact damage. Like
Yep.
stuff like Basilisk, you can play that, but then that just gets two tapped. You can put out big stuff, but that gets cleared. A board full of small stuff that gets cleared. So it just makes a lot of what you do irrelevant, and that man, that sucks. That just feels real bad. Watch posted the same thing, and that's why it was
Hmm.
banned. Um, but we're probably not going to see some of this stuff banned. They don't like to ban class cards. It's just not
I don't
like
know. I think we're gonna see a band. I think Bloodseeker and I
I
don't know
think the
about the
weapon
Paladin card
removal.
because it's
Yeah.
like it's 8
Yep.
mana. I don't know that. I think it would just get like offering rate nerfed for the Paladin card.
Yep.
But Bloodseeker, it's it'll be so obvious. It'll be so obvious, so feel bad, so not a game. Like it prevents the game from happening in the arena.
Yep, it does. And oh, this is good because we have someone in the chat addressing this, and it's something that I think needs to be addressed. There, chat is basically asking, is like, oh, does this make weapon destruction go up? I mean,
No.
like, here's the thing. What it does is like, if you have an ooze and you're facing a hunter, yeah, sure, but what it does really is play into this, and it's growing really fast. This just like hate card meta in which we are. I mean, if you look at what the meta is right now, you have Galaka gluttons trying to eat like
Nesting
beast.
Rose.
Yeah, exactly. You can't play beast, but then you also have the original like Galaka crawlers eating like pirates.
Hmm.
So it's like just really kind of funny. I've watched instances on stream where, it's like the glutton like one side eats, the other side eats the eater, and then it's just like, God, why are we doing this now? Um y- you don't want the arena to have hate cards at all. I'm not saying too many hate cards, you just don't want that, period. Dragon Slayer was always a bad idea. Um the the 4/4 that turns into an 8/8 rush if there's a dragon, bad idea. It doesn't matter about the power level. This is just not what arena should be. This is like not what is fun in arena, if you care about any sort of competitive integrity at all, because this is stuff that you cannot kind of like really factor in to a healthy degree. So if we're talking about weapon removal, um, I hate the fact that like people are thinking about that, because that would be like the most, like, just the worst way to deal with it. It's like, oh, maybe we need to draft more weapon removal and everything. It's like, no, 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 no. I don't want the arena community to kind of like take on this burden at all.
Even
Like, I
even
understand.
the arena community, you don't want Blizzard to look at this. They're like, well, maybe we don't have to ban Bloodseeker if we increase the offering rate of oozes. That's terrible.
That would be terrible. So it's one of those things where I don't even want like to talk about, almost, because I'm like, why? why should we, like, in the slightest accept this? Because that is actually just the worst. That is the
It's
worst.
just terrible balance design, terrible game design. Yeah, so yeah, and just let's say you see Bloodseekers everywhere, just take the loss. Like, drafting oozes significantly higher than they would be otherwise just to counter one card is not going to be worth it, even if it is a common card in the most popular class. Because you will also need to have it on 2. Like, it's not like your ooze is going to do you much good on turn 6. You lost the game already. And similarly, if they play a Bloodseeker on turn 2, on turn 2, you've lost the game. If they play a Bloodseeker on turn 6, I don't know, you may be able to make it. If they play it on turn 12, yeah, the Bloodseeker's a 2-mana card played on turn 12. It's not going to be that big of a difference maker, even if it is extremely ridiculously OP, you know? So, the efficiency of oozes also is not that great against Bloodseeker. Like, I don't know. This is... Bloodseeker's got problems. So yeah, Bloodseeker, Templar Captain, who knows what more cards are going to come in this S plus tier. Like, if there was just one card that came out, I wasn't even going to talk about it. I was going to be like, yeah, that card's OP, whatever, they're going to deal with it. But the fact that there's 2 cards that came out that are that OP, that means there's probably at least a couple more, and it means now I don't know if Blizzard's actually going to ban it.
It's pretty scary. And the issue that you're talking about, it's like, okay, so step 1, we need a core set with basically 4 mana 5/6s, right? Like, because that's what we're looking at here. Like, at the very least, like, at the old power levels, like, how do we view Dark Iron Dwarf? It's fine. Like, it's acceptable for a 4 now. It's like, okay, great. So yeah, like, everything has to kind of go up to match these new cards. And also, we really got to think about how we want to do these, like, wild rotations. It's getting to the point where it's impossible, because
Yeah.
whenever you get a Witchwood card, with the exception of, like, a couple, you're like, well, crap, this is a Witchwood card, like, or this is a I don't know, Blackrock Mountain card.
Oh god, those are
And
so bad.
you're just really sad about it. I got a Blackrock Mountain card. It's not a specific card. I just got one, like, one of those cards. I got a Witchwood card. I got a Rastakhan's Rumble card. That really sucks.
Yeah.
So it's rough. Like, we might have to do something a little bit more dramatic than just, oh, here are the older sets that are coming in, because some of these older sets that are coming in, they're just really bad in comparison now. And with the exception of 1 or 2 things, you just can't be drafting cards from those, because as we've seen, if the power level is this steep, what ends up happening is you drop something what used to be, like, mediocre, they drop what is now a premium, and that swing, it's kind of impossible for you to come back, unless you have, like, a loaded hand or a loaded deck, and that just really sucks. So I don't know. We're getting really close to the point, if we're not at that point already, where the current system of wild rotation is becoming just, it's not workable, and it's too, like, it just feels way too bad.
Yep. Yep. Um, for so if you guys are thinking about this historically, the last 3 years have basically had the exact same power level, starting with Rise and Shadows. The last 3 years of Hearthstone expansions until this upcoming one. So, Horde via Alliance. Oh, sorry, Alterac Valley. I'm just calling it Horde via Alliance.
Fractured and Alter. You can call it Fave.
Fave. Fractured in Alterac Valley. I just call it Horde via Alliance.
I'm gonna call it Fave.
Okay.
It's
So
Fav Expansion.
Oh yeah, the Fav expansion. Until this expansion, the last 3 years, that's going back 8 expansions, have all been about the same power level, including the core set and the Demon Hunter stuff. After they nerfed it. The Before that, there was one whole year where the power levels were pretty like normal. Like we're talking back in normal Hearthstone. But the year before that, and then some, maybe the year and a half before that, for like 4 or 5 expansions, it was all similar, like similarly large power levels to what we got in the last 3 years. A little inconsistent, but the top line was similar. So there really like hasn't been a top line power creep in Hearthstone in like 5 years, 6 years, 5 years. There's been at least 5 years without a top line increase in power level. Now the average card's power level has increased significantly during this period, as I'm sure you guys all know. But the top line, your Defiles, your I don't know, just the Arbor of, just insert most ridiculous card, right? Like your twin tyrants. Well, that's neutral, but just your top lines are kind of the same. And people are like, "Oh, this is so terrible." Like, yes, but it's the same kind of terribleness that we've been dealing with for 5 years, on and off, depending on which card is in the meta or not. This is different. And we keep saying that it's all fine, it's all the same. We've been saying it for like the last many expansion releases, while everyone's been freaking out about the latest amazing class card, and it's all been more or less okay. But this is not the case. This is new.
Yeah, and remember, there's also a difference between power level and how feels bad or how toxic
Yeah.
it is for the meta. So, is Watch Post the most powerful thing ever? No, like it wasn't. I mean, it's ridiculously powerful,
It's
but
the most powerful like neutral thing ever. Yeah.
yeah, but the worst thing about it is how bad it made people feel, and how little impact your decisions made.
Yeah, it ends the game. You can't have a card that ends the game before it begins. You can't.
Yeah.
Like, why does that exist? Like, yeah, sure, you only draw it in your opening hand X% of the time. This is a problem. Someone in chat brought up Gennard. That's the problem with Gennard on turn 1. I don't think I've ever won against someone who Gennard on turn 1, and we did not, and like, curved out afterwards, and we did not have a Gennard. I think I'm still holding that as a ever. Like, I've never beaten that opener. Now, sure, I tend to play more tempo than more card advantage things, and maybe if I played more card advantage control decks, I'd be able to get out of it. But that's just how big that card on turn 1 warped the game. Now, ultimately, that card is not like an S plus tier card at all. Why? Because later on, it goes from stupidly amazing to like flat out bad. Like, you get a Gennard on like turn 10, turn 12, you gotta wait 2 more turns before it does anything. Like, game's over. Like, it's actually super bad late in the game. So that's what, like, quote unquote evens it out. But that's horrible game design in Arena, because you don't get to play the game if the condition happens that you draw it at that point. Bloodseeker's the same way, and this is why we talk about Bloodseeker as like quote unquote worse than Templar Captain, even though in reality the power levels are very similar. It's just that Templar Captain at least lets you play the game. But Bloodseeker does not allow you to play the game if it's in your hand on turn 2.
Yep.
So, yeah. And there's going to be cases, right? I'm not saying like ever, but like there's going to be cases where they play a Bloodseeker on turn 2, and like you have something with 3 health, and they like can't deal that 1 extra damage for like a turn or 2. And then Bloodseeker is like kind of like, weird and a little inefficient, and then it ends up not being so bad. That's going to happen. And it's not going to happen once in a blue moon. Like, it's going to happen sometimes. But even in that case, they still played a 2-mana 2/2 weapon, as like the base, without this honorable kill thing. And they probably made you play in a weird way to dodge their crap. Like, and that's the absolute best case scenario for you. And that'll happen like, I don't know, 5-10% of the time that you see this card come out on turn 2. It's just it's bad. It's bad. This card's gonna be banned. And if it's not, like, well, I'm not afraid. Like I said, I'm not afraid if it's just Bloodseeker. It's that we have 2 of these cards, and they haven't revealed that many cards. Like, they've revealed less than a third of the, maybe about a third of the class cards. There's probably more ridiculous crap in here. And are they going to ban all of them in Arena? Right? Like, that's what I would want. I would want them to ban everything. I was talking before about just last week about just over banning cards. Like, do it. Just over ban some cards. Let them free for the first like few days, and then when you hit the button or whatever, just ban some of these cards.
Yep. I think it's fine if you like. Okay, if you don't trust kind of the people who are shouting before it comes out, that's fine. Give it 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I think 3 days is more than enough to kind of like see. And then we would just ask, and I think for the sanity of like the arena community, they would be very happy. Like, for example, if you banned during I'll call it the Scorpid meta, right? If you ban venomous Scorpid within the Scorpid meta, I think the vast majority of people would be like, okay, cool, that's fine. Like, we weren't like, oh man, Scorpid is the reason that we're playing Arena. And I think most people are just like, yeah, that card is really brokenly good, and it swings games, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
So even if you overbanned, in which like, we weren't saying we weren't calling out for like Scorpid to be banned, like we were calling out for Watch Post to be banned, but we would have been very okay if Scorpid was banned.
Mm-hmm.
So I think most of the community feels that way as well. It's like if you overban and you get rid of that, cool.
Yeah. We're getting
That's fine.
135 new cards. We can live without 10 of them.
Yeah. Okay. And once again, look, I said this last week. I'll say it again. Blizzard is listening.
Mm-hmm.
If not for Ixar, I talked about this before, and Ixar, even though he's like taking leave right now, he's still interacting with the community, so that's always appreciated. Make sure you, I mean, don't just like keep tweeting at him if he's not asking, but if he's asking a question that's arena relevant, obviously follow it up. But the person you guys definitely should talk to, because it's her job now, is Alkali. Alkali, I mentioned, was a content creator and is now working as a community manager. And if you guys don't know, if you guys haven't been on Twitter as much as I have, she's been crushing it. Like, I don't feel bad in saying that previously, community management for Hearthstone, I won't say Blizzard like overall because I don't know the other games as well, but for Hearthstone was fairly lacking. Like, I am pretty active in the Hearthstone community. I watch a lot of streams and everything. And I didn't see much of this community management before. And now that she is on it, she has been basically, advertising people's streams, telling people what's going on, breaking arena news. She also just hinted slash basically confirmed, but she hinted that there will be an arena co-op reveal between Dreads and Redbeard, 2 of the biggest and kind of only arena streamers. Because Dreads asked, it's like, hey, you're dumping all of these cards that have no significance in constructed because no one cares. Just give some of those to me because we care a lot. And, Redbeard and I, we can actually do stuff with it. We can create content with it. We can hype it up. We can explain things. And it's just good for the arena community. And what were you going to do with those cards anyways? Just dump them, right? And she was like, yeah, she agreed. And she was like, hey, would you like to see this? And like, kind of like sideways eye and sort of just like confirm it. I'm just like, this is awesome. First of all, that she ran with this idea. She's responding to Dreads, and she is actually kind of creating hype for this. I'm like, cool. Now, like early next week or whenever this thing is, I'm looking forward to this. This is awesome. So look, Blizzard is doing things, but like more specifically, Alkali is being just the hero that Arena. I'm not saying Arena deserves this, but they need this. Okay, like I don't know if a community like Arena deserves anything, but Alkali is a breath of fresh air. She has been amazing. So if you have suggestions and everything, direct it to her. And I think this is good. Like we have someone there who is doing actual community management, reaching out, doing these things, thinking about Arena. So there is hope. All right, guys. There's definitely hope out there. And if you have time, also just tweet at her, tell her how great she's doing, because she is. So we know we have at least someone advocating for, I mean, every mode, but also Arena, and someone that you easily know you can reach out to. So if there was this question of like, oh, I don't know, like who at all to reach out to, well, now you have someone. It's Alkali.
All right. That is new expansion talk and arena talk. You guys are wondering about the schedule for the release. I think I've outlined it before, but I'm also going to give an update right now about our stream schedule coming up. So this upcoming Monday, Merps, the stream is fine. And then on the 24th, we're not doing a Wednesday stream. I will be back on the 26th for Black Friday for a normal Friday stream, and then we will do a normal Sunday stream on the 28th. And are you going to stream on the 29th or no?
Wait, what date is the 29th?
Monday? The Monday after this.
Maybe?
Okay. So
maybe.
we get a maybe for the 29th, but after the 29th, there will be no streams until the 5th, which is the big reveal stream of our card our card analysis for the upcoming expansion. And that is going to be followed by another Skip Monday stream because it's the day before our expansion release. And we will be streaming Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday after the expansion is released. So that's what's coming up through this Thanksgiving / release window for. Oh, I'm gonna have to go look at Fractured in Alterac Valley expansion.
Yep, you got the name right. Good job.
All right. Let's talk about Battlegrounds. So in this patch, Arena wasn't the only mode affected. Battlegrounds was also affected. They released the biggest balance update in the history of Battlegrounds.
Yeah, so let's talk about this for a second. Okay, quite a few things happened in BGs. Let's just go into the first thing. The real literally game-changing kind of system. They're introducing this new armor system. There's a handy-dandy graphic. I would advise you guys to just go look at the newest patch notes. That's patch 21.8. There is a big chart for it. But essentially, what BG's is doing is now heroes will be awarded armor at the start of each game to help balance and spice up the tavern, as they say. So look, there are now 7 tiers. Tier 1 heroes get 0 armor. Tier 7 heroes get 7 to 10 armor. It's a range. It's a random amount of armor from within a range. So this also introduces a little bit of RNG, right? But Blizzard is using some sort of internal ranking by their numbers to do it. And just to give you some examples, here are the heroes from tier 1, which is the best tier. They get no additional armor, which is basically just health. Like everyone is a mini Patchwork now. Okay?
Yeah, I was about to say, the thing is, Patchwork is not like the standard for how armor gets added. Patchwork gets armor. How much armor does Patchwork get? Like 3 to 5 or something like that? Like Patchwork is in the middle of the tier list system that they made. So not only does Patchwork get 15 health, which is its entire ability, but it also gets 3 to 5 armor. Which means that the correct balance for Patchwork was always the original way they released him. And for some reason, when they rebuffed him up, they just like got shy about the last 5 health. Like I don't understand.
So, with this new update, in Tier 1, we have heroes like Rafam, Hook Tusk, Cookie, Daryl, Omu, Flurgle, Galewing, Jandis, let's see, the Panda. I keep Master Wen. I always call him the Panda.
Wow.
Millhouse, Mutinous. We have
That's very
Sneeds, and we
racist.
have Ysera. These are the heroes that by Blizzard's internal system have rated as the highest tier. So they get no bonus health. And then at the very bottom in tier 7, you have heroes like AFK, we have Arana, Guff, Lich Bazil, and Pyramid. I think you can understand why these need a lot of help. They get between 7 and 10 extra health / armor per game. And immediately, what some of the top players were saying was that there was no way this was balanced around top MMR. Understandably.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is very predictable. In fact, if they had balanced this around the highest MMR, I would have been shocked.
Yeah.
Because, so here are just some examples of heroes that are getting armor that, according to the highest MMR, should not get armor. So one thing is, for example, Shutterwalk is getting 4 to 7 armor in tier 4, and depending, by the way, these don't change according to the tribes. So that's another thing. Another example is like Reno is in tier 3 with 3 to 6 armor. Depending on what tribes are in, depending on how aggro the lobby is, etc. It's like, I don't know about that one. What was it? Gallywix. Where was Gallywix? I forgot where he was, but he also got way more armor than he was supposed to get.
Yeah, basically the pro heroes and the heroes
Yeah.
that are more situational and the good players will only use them situationally, they're going to be at
Yep.
an advantage. So now the whole meta is, or would be, flipped upside down with this new system. But we'll see the full effects of it once Diablo's gone.
Yes. So, look, even with the, I wouldn't say criticism, just pointing out kind of the obvious here, right? This wasn't balanced around top MMR. Even with kind of the kind of question marks over the top MMR streamers, I've heard a lot of the feedback, and a lot of them are like, you know what, this is cool. I get to play heroes and not feel as bad, right? It's like, if you want to play Cat, have an extra 5 to 8 armor. You really need it as the Cat, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to play Chinvala, because you're me and you are masochistic in that way, have an additional sometimes 9 armor. I need that. I need that as Chimvala.
It's great that everybody's a
It's great.
mini patchwork, because like that's a there was always a problem with Battlegrounds, right? Like, looking at the core of Battlegrounds, there was always a problem with trying to balance new and innovative powers and adding a whole lot of them to it. And that's because a power can only be so big, and you can't break units into micro units. Like, you can't give half an attack. And sometimes, yeah, you could just make the mana cost higher to like kind of balance it, but that throws off the effect of how you want this hero design-wise to work, right? Like, yeah, sure, having a 3 mana hero power may be the most balanced way, but they really wanted to feel like a 1 mana hero power. But at that point, maybe +2/+2 is too much, but +1/+2 is not enough, right? Like, yeah, this is a great system to balance everything. Now, I will say, design-wise, this is also the most give up, the most like throw in the towel system. And that's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. It is the most give up system, because what they've basically done is say, okay, well, now the heroes that we don't want to give too much power to, we're going to have them have the same amount of win rate. But the flavor is now different, right? Now, every hero that gets armor comes with an asterisk, because it's behaving in a way that it was never intended to, right? That's not a part of its design. And in fact, that armor can like rise and fall depending on the meta, depending on what minions get released, depending on which other heroes get more popular. Maybe they counter some or whatever, right? So the actual design of the hero, the designers have to let go a bit in order to do this Battlegrounds armor system. So from like a let's have the designers show their full creativity and have things the way it was intended. This is not a win at all. This is actually a huge loss. But this is the kind of give up balancing that we need, because the system is very complicated. There's no way a human being or even a computer will accurately balance all of it without a number that can be moved, because computers are great at moving numbers. They're not great at creatively like doing stuff, at least not the kind that, you know, Blizzard has access to. And this is the kind of give up-y system of balance that they need in the arena, right? Like they thought they created one with the button where you hit it and you get this kind of auto balance between classes, but we've seen how it's worked in practice, which is that half the time it's still not balanced. Like the button has a very, very low success rate for supposedly just looking at win rates and then balancing it based on that, because it's a complicated system. So one thing with Battlegrounds and this system is I do like that Blizzard, even in their most popular game mode, has just decided to give up, like half give up on the balancing. Like that is the way to
terminology a little bit, because you say give up, and I know exactly what you mean, and people on the internet might be like capital D colon, like, oh man, you're roasting.
No. I mean this in a positive way.
It's a freeing decision. It frees them to be because the thing is, if you don't do this, your creativity is more limited in what you can do, because then you have to think more about, it's like these blockier, clunkier decisions, right? And then you have to implement it in that way. By doing this gradient, which, by the way, Blizzard has specifically stated that this is just sort of like a testing out, feeling out period. They're going to adjust, and there's no guarantee that this stays. You know, they said that they want to test it out. They said, exact words, the system may come in and out of the mode from patch to patch as we refine the system and introduce other features or major changes. They're just trying to figure out something that works. And this is like one of those things that frees them up, right? Like if they want to create cool, weird hero powers that like fluctuate in terms of how good they are, well, now they can create that without thinking like, oh man, like how do we do it? Like this either deals too much damage or not enough damage. And in this way, it's sort of like, okay, well, now we have a lot more freedom to just design heroes with the coolness and the uniqueness that we want, and not have to worry so much about them beating everyone up or them sucking. And then so this decision was very, very freeing for Blizzard in that way.
Yeah, I mean it's giving up the controls. They have given up on their ability to balance Battlegrounds at the precision level that they want. And that's because they can't do it. That's because it is possible that no human beings can. But rather than try to do this process, and balancing work takes time, and it takes trial and error, and everybody's the beta tester while this is going on. So if this algorithm can capture this in a good way, and if it gets adjusted often enough and is accurate enough, even like at the top it'll never be accurate, right? Because it's not being balanced for the top. But even if it is accurate for like the average player or the average committed player or whatever their Blizzard's actually trying to have a balance for, like, can you imagine if Arena didn't have the button? Like, the button is not great in Arena, like just the way that it functions, but it would be significantly worse without it. And what I'm hoping,
I mean, that's like it's so ingrained in Arena now, and we've had so many. It's like asking me, it's like, can you imagine if, like 30 years ago, instead of going to this elementary school, you went to this elementary school in another state? I'm like, I can't imagine, because that's like more than just a butterfly effect. That's like, yes, my entire life would be different. I don't know what I would be doing. Maybe I'd be like a paleontologist somewhere, like digging up a dinosaur instead of playing, like wizard poker. I have literally no idea. And just same thing with Arena. It's like, without the adjustments, because it's been a part of it for so long, I don't know. And because they have done adjustments, subsequent changes kind of ride on they work on top of that, right?
Right.
Like, or with the idea that there are adjustments there. So I literally cannot imagine.
Okay. Well, then don't imagine what it's like without it. My point is that if you're going to do a give uppy kind of way of balancing, which has its benefits, I love automated balancing. When it comes to limited game modes, because the whole point of a limited game mode is that it is elegant. And the problem that limited game modes run into, and you see Blizzard running into this problem all the freaking time, is because designers hate elegance. They say they like elegance, but they feel their whole job is to put stuff into stuff until it's no longer elegant. Because that's what happens. It's really hard to make something elegant. You make something elegant generally by not touching it. So by going through the give up route, whichever give up route it is, this is just one of the versions of the give up route that they can take. And by give up, I don't mean Blizzard has given up on the game mode. I mean Blizzard has given up on putting a hand into manually balancing the game mode, or at least putting as much of a hand. I'm sure they'll still tweak powers here and there based on how it plays and how they want it to play, based on feel. That's what humans are generally good at. But when you get to these complicated systems, giving up allows the algorithm or the computer or just the basic game mode to be elegant. And for a limited game mode, which is all this randomness that gets added in, not added in, all this randomness that's just a fundamental part of these game modes, whether it's Battlegrounds, whether it's Arena, that elegance is what supports these algorithmically generated balancing decisions. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to have any thought attached to it. They just become part of the game. The way Merp says, I don't know what Arena would be like without pushing the button, and because the button has been there for like 5 years. It's because we don't, like, the button operates underneath everything, and that's just the game of Arena now. Now, the problem with the Arena button is it kind of sucks. So I'm hoping the Battlegrounds button is using a lot better technology, and that maybe they can, look at the Arena button again and fix it, hopefully. But either way, the idea of where this is going, I love it. Because the idea, Merp says it's more freeing. Sure, like I can see how it could be freeing, but I think it also is, like, if I was a designer, I would like it and I would not like it. Like, I wouldn't like just that if I designed a hero power and I wanted it to function a certain way, and then all of a sudden my hero has like 5 extra armor. Like that becomes, like, it warps how your hero functions in the game. Maybe if I was a pure creative designer, it's freeing. But if I'm a balanced designer, I get anxiety on that because now it may or may not function the way I want it to function. But there's just too many moving pieces. So, like, what game designers need to do more of is just to let go of their control in limited game modes and kind of let RNG do its thing. Like, let the algorithm work with the randomness inherent in your system, set up the building blocks, and just let it do its thing afterwards. You can tweak things, but know that you can't tweak everything. At least not in extremely complicated systems. Like, back in the day when there were buckets, that was fine. But you really needed someone to be very on top of the buckets and to make these adjustments on a week or 2 week by week or 2 week basis. And they didn't do that because that's a crap ton of work. And you need someone who's actually capable of doing that, of analyzing the stats the right way, and of actually having experience in the arena. And they didn't have that person, or they didn't dedicate enough resources to the people who are capable of it. And that's a decision to be made. But if you're not going so hard into it like that, and you're not able to make decisions and implement them that quickly, which may be an operational issue as well, then just leaving things in an elegant but imperfect way, in this give-up-y, balanced way, is really the best result. So I know it's a temporary system, but so far the feedback, I think, has been overwhelmingly positive on the system type, and hopefully it's just created better than whatever's been happening on the arena side.
Yeah, look, if your complaint about the system is that it doesn't create perfect balance, and it just makes different heroes better, I mean, that's fine. Then we're just back to the original problem, right? But what it does do is these heroes that were really not played before, now people play them sometimes, and it doesn't feel as bad, and it definitely freshens things up. So that's cool. Like, I think this is a good idea. I like this system for now, and at the very least, they're just testing it out, right? They're just testing it out. So if you don't like it, that's fine. You can go on forums, you can go on Reddit, uh, kindly and eloquently explain why you don't like it. And this is something that I'm sure Blizzard is taking feedback on, and they will
Yeah,
monitor this
they will
very
definitely
well.
monitor it. But
But
what I really like about this as well, compared to the arena one, is that it's transparent. Like that's the one thing about the button that I don't think
yeah,
anyone in the arena likes, where nobody knows what's going on. Here, you know exactly. I mean, it's an RNG range, but you know what's happening. And
you see it before the game as well.
yeah,
So if you guys haven't seen it, what happens is during the hero select screen, when you are selecting, let's say Mukla, you'll see Mukla with 6
mm-hmm.
armor, for example. If you are selecting Cat, you'll see Cat with like 8 armor, and you'll be like, oh, okay. And then, so that informs your decision. The adjustments in Arena, part of the problem is they don't tell you exactly when
It's
it
not
gets
even that it's
adjusted.
not in the UI. You can't even look up the information.
You can't look up
Like
these
they just
things.
don't announce it, and they
Right.
they don't announce it because they probably don't know. Like there's not a person that knows that like had to like be responsible for putting together a graphic. They're just like, well, we pushed the button. Did it do what it's supposed to do? Like,
Yeah.
and that's why whenever there's a bug in, the button doing what it's supposed to do or whatever, no one even picks up on it for weeks, and then Blizzard doesn't address it for months.
Yep. Okay, look, we talked about this. This is something that's exciting, and if you're wondering why you haven't heard so much about this armor system, it's because everyone is complaining about Diablo. Before we get to Diablo, there was a new hero that comes out. Unfortunately, she's not so great. Tamsin Rome. I don't
She's
know the
wonderful. Tamsin Rome
lore behind
is
this.
amazing. Tamsin Rome, if she's in the I think she's in the latest Book of Mercenaries. She's also one of my favorite mercs in Hearthstone Mercenary. She has a
And
really
mercenaries.
awesome
Okay.
design about her.
Okay, and mercenaries.
I wish they tweak her kit a little bit in Mercenary, but we'll see if they buff her. She's being used, so I don't think that they're actually going to buff her. But it just bothers me on an OCD level that like some of the equipment doesn't line up. But anyway,
Okay.
she's got a really cool story arc as far as that goes. So
Oh, okay. Well, look, in Battlegrounds right now, she is, ooh, her stats, and I'm giving you from Aegis Replay tier 7 stats. So these are stats from the tippy top players, like higher than 10k. She is the third worst hero. Actually, the second to worst because Barov has not enough data. So she is slightly ahead of Arana,
what's her
and
power?
that is it. Her hero power is it's a 0 mana hero power
Mm-hmm.
that you have to use. Destroy your lowest health minion, give its health to all your others. So she can help give some tempo. Uh
Wait,
but
that's a
hmm,
bad hero power.
yep.
God, how much has hero power has been inflated in Battlegrounds since I was playing?
Well, there's no econ to it, right? There's no econ, and so what? You're gonna
I
give some
see.
health to
It destroys the entire thing, so you don't even get your coin back. Got it.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Got it.
There's no
Got it.
there's no econ preservation here, as well. Um, so
Okay, so there
look,
is a cost. It's 0 mana, but it costs one gold.
yeah, like it doesn't do anything. That is kind of like that really helps you in the current battlegrounds. So
Oh, okay. It's at the start of combat, and it's only for that combat. That's why.
yeah, look,
So it's not permanent.
Tamsin, yeah, and Tamsin is just a hero in which it's tempo based. But let's talk about the real tempo hero, Diablo. So what they did with Diablo was they buffed Diablo because they said Diablo is going to stick around a little bit longer, whatever that means. So he has another chance to make his mark before he goes. To help with that, 3 of the Diablo treasures have been changed. Essentially, all of the Diablo treasures have been increased or like doubled. They've all been doubled. And Diablo is now a terror. Diablo is a hero. When he came out, I said this to like our Discord immediately. I'm like, Diablo is going to be one of those heroes in which he either it's like the line of him being balanced is going to be really tough because he's by definition a snowball hero, and if he sucks, he really sucks. Like if he's not good, at sort of gaining the advantage and then sort of like snowball, like really just rolling over the rest of the lobby, then he's gonna fall behind, right? If he's not going ahead a lot, he's falling behind by default, because that's just the way that the Diablo battles work and everything. And now he wasn't good before. Like he was pretty bad. Now, if you just watch the Global Invitational, you might think like, "Oh, wait, Merps," but like, the top players were doing super well with Diablo at like the biggest tournament. Tournament meta is very different. And you can ask like Collins and Slissa, because I've spoken with like Slissa about it, and the tournament meta that showed off Diablo and had people like, oh, like the stats are wrong. It's like Diablo like was already amazing. No, it was bad because the ladder meta is different than the tournament meta, in which like everyone is going very aggressive and playing tempo. Um, so Diablo was bad, and then when they doubled all of his treasures, he just like crushes people now. You don't even have to watch streams. Here's the easiest way to know how good Diablo is. Search up the latest like Diablo or BG videos from like creators. My timeline for like YouTube, I just see Slissa with like clickbaity. I'm not saying this in a bad way. You guys know, like we're friends. Titles about how OP Diablo is. I see like clickbaity titles from Dog showing how OP Diablo is. Um, it just really warps the lobby because, unfortunately, by design, Diablo has by far the most effect on the lobby because everyone faces him. Everyone faces him, and if he beats everyone, he just snowballs so much harder. And right now, according to HS Replay stats, Diablo stands alone in Tier 1. No one is even close to Diablo. Diablo right now has a 3.39 average placement. This is high historically as well. Basically, any hero with a sub 3.5 average placement for this high MMR, it means that they are a menace, and that they need to like really be looked at. So we're looking at like, you know, Hook Tusk in its first iteration, right? We're looking at Eudora, when Eudora was like at the top of the meta. We're looking at, kind of like, I think Master when it first came out as well, was there. So this is sort of the power level that we're looking at here. And it's bad. Not just due to the power level, but due to the fact that every player faces Diablo. So this is even worse than like, let's say a Hook Tusk being really good, because at least with Hook Tusk you can kind of avoid them. People are complaining about this a lot because it's like you face Diablo as in the Diablo player, and then you face the global event Diablo battle, and then like 2 turns after that you like face Diablo again. You're just like, please stop. Like I can't do this. I can't just be facing Diablo all the freaking time. And he is just crushing everyone with that tempo right now. So Diablo is temporary, but at the same time, if you go on Twitter, if you talk to a lot of the content creators, they are very tired of Diablo. So I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen with this. I'm guessing Blizzard is just gonna take it out, be like, okay, everyone's had their fun. Diablo's gone now because it was just a limited time thing for an event. And then we can just go on with, because the second best hero is Daryl right now. which is the mark of is like, oh, okay, that's cool. It's Daryl, good old Daryl,
No,
just getting
no,
some
not good
stats.
old Daryl. New, updated Daryl. Super OP Daryl. They should bring
I
back good
mean,
old Daryl and give him some
Daryl
armor.
Daryl is pretty good. But look, well, Daryl doesn't get armor.
I know, but he
Yeah,
would have if he got buffed a little later.
yeah. So we will see what happens. But yes, this is something that the community is complaining loudly about. And I think this is understandable. There are some things that the community complains about, which I'm just like, I don't know about that. But then there's Diablo, in which I'm just like, I understand. And a lot of
Yeah,
it has to do with the fact that,
that's such a
like,
weird design, but I mean that's just what Blizzard
yeah,
does now. Like they've been keeping Arena and Dual Class event for like 3 weeks or more for like several years going on. They're doing the same now with Battlegrounds. Like this is just something you have to live as a Hearthstone player.
yep,
Yep, play more than one game mode, right? They're all but begging you to do it because they will shut down the game mode that you like every now and then for like a month long at a time.
yeah,
And they are perfectly comfortable with it. They are not looking at this and being like, "Oh no, we did a terrible thing. Let's fix it." They're like, all right, it'll fix itself in a bit." In
yep.
fact, they buffed him because in Mercenaries, Diablo was running everything, and in Battlegrounds, they were like, "Ooh, we didn't make him good enough." So now let's match the two. But unfortunately for Mercenaries, Diablo's not actually going away. So I don't really know what they're going to do. I'm still waiting for the first freaking round of nerfs in Mercenaries because all of this buff stuff, it's good. I appreciate it, but the nerfs are inevitable. They're not going to get away with not nerfing stuff ever.
Yeah, but are you going to be able to disenchant or like what?
They're going to have
Dust?
to make some kind of system because people will be up in arms if you can't. Like if there's no resources, if you don't get some of your resources back from a nerfed hero. But they do like for the balance of the game, they have to do it at some point. It may not happen anytime soon though. It's super early beta basically, right? For Mercenaries, I wouldn't be surprised if they were okay with Karen and Diablo dominating everything for like 4 months, 6 months.
Yeah, at least until like I don't know January.
January. I would be so happy if Karen and Diablo were out of the meta by January. I'm thinking like April.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. The game could also just look completely different by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they are releasing at least like 5 new mercenaries every month.
yeah,
So, and the game started with 50. So that's like a lot of mercenaries being added. So they could also just like power creep their way out of the problem with the new mercenaries. But we'll see.
all right. Look. In addition to that, we also saw a few nerfs, a few changes to cards. I'll go through them like pretty quickly, but they nerfed this mid game kind of like tempo mech play a little bit because Mechano Tank is now a 5/3 and it now deals 5 damage instead of 6 damage for Avenge 2. Greasebot now only gives +1/+1 whenever something loses Divine Shield instead of +2/+1. So a little bit of nerf to this like very strong mech mid game. They buffed some pirates. Scallywag is now a 3/1 instead of a 2/1. Yoho Ogre is now a 3/5 instead of a 2/6. Kind of a lateral movement there. Sousey Strong Arm now gives an additional +1/+1 because instead of giving a friendly pirate +1/+1 for each pirate you bought this turn, you give a pirate +1/+1, and then you repeat that for each pirate you bought this turn. So, just a little bit of extra stats there. Ripsnarl Captain has 1 more health, going from a 4/5 to a 4/6. Oh, there's this change that I do not love. Tony Two Tusk went from an Avenge 5 to an Avenge 4. This we have seen the effects of it. If you so I don't play a lot of BGs, but I do watch streams. This is a pretty big change. Tony Two Tusk going from Avenge 5 to Avenge 4 means that they're going for it a little bit more often and getting that golden Eliza. Um, it's really dangerous now, and I've seen a lot of players either hit like let's say the golden Eliza or the golden Hogger, really early on and just like dominate, deal a buttload of damage to opponents. We're talking like getting the Golden Eliza like turn 7, you know? Um, so I don't love this change. We'll see exactly what happens with it. Right now, Diablo is just warping the lobby so much. So if Diablo were to leave, but Tony stays on Avenge 4, I don't know. I could see this being extraordinarily problematic. Tough Tusk is now a 5-3 instead of a 4-3. Bristleback Brute is now a 3-3 instead of a 4-4. However, the first blood gem played on each turn gives an extra +3/+3 instead of an extra +2/+2. So if you buy it and you just drop it with no gems, it's worse. But if you play one gem, it's the same. If you play two gems, like or over 2 turns, then you're getting more stats. So overall, it is a buff. Dynamic Duo is now a 5-6 from a 4-5. So they're just like unnerfing all of these.
Mm-hmm.
They're unnerfing a couple of things. Necrolyte actually changed. It went from a tier 3 to a tier 4 unit. And now it still steals or it still enables stealing of blood gems from neighbors, but it now plays 2 blood gems on the minion as well. So it went up a tier. So it's harder to find, but at the same time, it's now adding an additional +2/+2 onto units. And
All
that's
right.
Battlegrounds.
Yep. Those are the Battlegrounds changes. A lot of changes are going to happen in 2 weeks with the expansion launch. I don't know about Battlegrounds. They try to desync it from Battlegrounds, but at the very least, I think that's when Diablo is going to go away. So that'll be a automatic Battlegrounds huge update. But more than that, that's when the arena new cards are going to be in. That's when the unannounced yet rotation, but I assume there's going to be a rotation that's going to hit, and we'll see how they deal with these uber power cards. So when new mercenaries are launching, I haven't talked about it much on this podcast, but over the course of the last week, I think I've played maybe 40-50 hours of mercenaries, which would be pretty much every single hour of free time and missed sleep that I had last week, because I was also working for like 15 hours a day for a few. So I am super hooked on it right now. I'm excited about the new ones being released, and yeah, I mean this podcast won't cover deep mercenary strategies or anything, but I would recommend when the new mercenaries come out, if you've kind of like played some of the game mode way back when or whatever, give it another shot. Actually play the bounties, actually try to do the heroic bounties normally. Like, don't screw yourself out of the experience by trying to do things in like the literally most efficient way possible. Like, I know what those ways are. I do them sometimes, but most of my gameplay is doing other stuff that is like, I don't know, it's still pretty efficient. It's like 80-85% as efficient as the most efficient ways to do things, but it is like so much more fun. So that's all. That's my advice on mercenaries.
This is what mercenaries did to Addleton. Look at him talking about. It's like, you guys don't have to do it the most efficient way. It's all about fun, guys. Like, what the hell happened to this
because
guy?
this is what mercenaries is about. This is not like from the very first podcast we did on mercenaries. I was very clear. This is clearly not what Blizzard wants mercenaries to do. Like the people like PJ doing his thing. That's like, not yet, PJ. You're ahead of the game, but I'm taking mercenaries the way Blizzard wants to take mercenaries. I am giving them money, but not too much money, because Blizzard does not want too much of my money. They just want a little bit of my money. So I'm doing exactly what Blizzard wants me to do. And you know what? It's a really enjoyable experience. And I asked Merps this before the podcast. I was like, has anyone ever done this before? Like, a JRPG, not a 1v1 battler, but a team v team battler in JRPG format. I feel like that hasn't been a PC game before. Merps, you said like it's probably in some mobile games, but it's not stuff that like I've actually played.
It takes elements from like a lot of different games, right? So it's like one of the reasons that people thought of Slay the Spire is, in some ways, it has an element of that.
Yeah, but it's PvP, right? The end game is PvP. The PvE part is like a lame version of Slay the Spire. Like, I get it, but it's meant to be a lame version of Slay the Spire.
So it's like part Pokemon, part Slay. People also mention like Raid Shadow Legends. I can see how it has some similarities there as well. But yeah, I mean, it's just in terms of the PvP, I think I wouldn't say like standard fare, turn-based kind of RPG-ish stuff, but we've seen it in other mobile games. You don't see it that much in like PC games,
Yeah.
understandably so. But it makes sense that you now see it in Hearthstone, in which case, Mercenaries isn't a standalone game. It is just like
Hmm.
a game within the
Yeah,
overall
it's
hub
like a
of
mini
Hearthstone.
game. It reminds me of
Yeah,
like in Final Fantasy, for example, they always have like some kind of very elaborate mini game like involved in somewhere. Like I remember Final Fantasy
sure,
8 has
sure.
that card game. Like there's that whole chocobo thing in whatever. Like, and it's just like it's a silly, stupid game, but there's actually a significant amount of depth in these games as well, and they've always been quite fun. Like they're a time sink, but they've always been quite fun. And Blizzard's kind of gone and made like the Uber version of that for the Hearthstone universe, and I am all for it. I also like turn-based RPGs, which I think is kind of a prerequisite to liking this game mode because that is what it
You've
is. It's
always
a
liked turn-based RPGs a
yeah,
ton.
yeah, it's a
Like more
JRPG.
so, yeah. Like you were always huge on Fire Emblem,
No, I was not
right?
huge on Fire Emblem. What?
I
I
thought you loved Fire
no,
Emblem.
no, just Three Houses. I Fire Emblem is like one of the worst turn-based RPGs that ever exists, and I will take that to my freaking grave, as in the
What's up
franchise,
with you
not the latest
and
one.
what's up with you and that Fire Emblem game though? Because
Oh
you
yeah, I
were all
love that
about
Fire
that
Emblem.
one.
Well, Three Houses is the best Fire Emblem game. I don't think that's
Okay.
that debatable. There was also like a lot of other non-turn-based gameplay in that game, like with the story and the characters and all of that. Like that was done really well.
Okay. All right.
Like better than a Fire Emblem normally does it. And Fire Emblem normally does it pretty well. Like that's one of the reasons people play Fire Emblem. But like Three Houses just like turned that up to like a 12. And the actual turn-based combat, they like kind of left it where it was, and it's still not good. But I like normal JRPGs. Like I got into Dragon Quest over the summer. That's what I was playing when I was over at your house.
Right.
Um,
Oh, what was the other game you played? Advance Wars? Did you?
oh no, Into the Breach.
Okay. Did you play Advance
I
Wars? I
I
thought you
never
played.
played Advance Wars.
Really? I thought that would be something that you would enjoy.
I thought I would enjoy it, but I didn't try it. So
Huh.
maybe just a miss thing. Maybe I'll play it when they re-release it on Switch, or maybe they already have.
Because
But
I played Advance Wars,
yeah,
and it was fun, but yeah, I'm surprised that you never played it. Okay,
yeah. But yeah, like if you enjoy JRPGs for more than just the story, like if you actually enjoy the combat part of it, like Mercs is like the PvP is it's a lot of rock paper scissors. It ultimately still becomes a lot of rock paper scissors, but there is enough to figure out that at least like, and I'm still on the learning curve, so I can actually like see myself improving, which is nice. Even though I'm sure I'm going to hit the ceiling at some point soon.
that's when you
Um,
bug PJ about it.
yeah. Well, I bugged PJ about it in the very beginning. Freaking PJ, after the last podcast, I'm like, all right, so give me like a comp, like to run, and he gave me like a super noob comp apparently, and so after I started running it, I lost like 70% of my game, some absurdly high loss rate. I'm sure I'm also not playing it like perfectly, but I'm just like, this is silly. Like I had like Rag as a closer, and he just like sucks because everyone else's closer's blue. So having a red closer is kind of terrible. And it was just so bad. Like I was getting countered left and right by Mukla. Like it was just so bad. So I went online and I found some other random like list, and I started running that, and now 50-50ing it at least, which is what you should be doing.
50-50. Yeah. Well, PJ was basically telling us when I was playing Fall Guys with him and Dreads that he's like, yeah, he's like, Adam just keeps bothering me about this thing. I think the implication was sort of like you were doing it wrong, like something was like lost in translation or something.
No, no, no. What was lost in translation was that he thought that I apparently just wanted a deck that I could play when I wanted a deck that I can climb with. Like, I wanted a good deck. Like, who wants just a random deck? And he's like, oh, this will be fine. And so he, like, gave me a lot of heroes that were, like, rare heroes, right? That I would definitely have and have leveled up. Instead of just being like, no, use this and, like, grind a bit more until you get here. Whereas I had planned out a whole week of grinding before I jumped into PvP. Anyway, Point is, I'm enjoying it, and I know some people played it in the beginning and have dropped off, and some people haven't quite gotten into it yet. I think there's enough depth in the game even as it is, and but really what you're playing for with this game is to set up your base so that when Blizzard does more stuff with it in 6 months, you're in good shape for it, because they clearly will, and the game will keep developing through then. And until then, it's good to learn the fundamentals and actually get good at the game, which I am certainly not at this point, but I can see myself improving, which is always nice.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Anything else you want to talk about before we close this off?
Nope.
Okay. I want to give a shout out to our patrons. Patreon.com/grinandgoat. Thank you guys so much. Top patrons of the month: RV Night Train, Eric L, Yin, 15 Gold Cringe, Aaron LS, REG, Dan F, and Karova, 4P, and Brand New. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for keeping the light on at the Lightforge. We appreciate you, and we will have one more podcast next week, and then the podcast the week after that will be the gigantic card review for Arena.
Yeah.
7 hours long at least. Can we do 7? We could probably do 7. There's hero cards this time. We don't have to go through as many cards.
Yeah, we don't have to go through. Also, I will make sure. I will make sure.
Uh-huh. The last 2 times you said that, it went longer than what we normally do.
That's your fault.
I don't know about that.
No, that's your fault.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Until next time, this is Adwick.
This is Merp. See you guys.